Good evening, PM. I'd like to call to order the regular March meeting of the Stevensville School Board of Trustees. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call this evening. Nathan. Here. Billy. Here. Stephanie.
Here.
I'm here. Ben. Fran.
Here.
Tony. Here. Jennifer.
Here.
And Dan. Here. All right. 8 trustees present and in person tonight. We'll start with our any recognition of visitors led by our superintendent.
We have a good crowd tonight. Yeah, I do want to point out, Ms. Armour was not able to make it. She's ill. And she hasn't reported in there, but the other administrators agreed to fill in where need be if there are any questions, and they'll answer as best they can.
All right. Does anybody with administration have guests to recognize tonight, or anybody on the board guests to recognize tonight? Okay, all right. And then at this time, we'll stand for board comment. This is comment from any board member or trustee that has open comment on anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Nathan.
I want to continue to say the praise of Dave and the cafeteria. Everyone has nothing but great things to say. So hopefully we can keep that. It's been awesome. Yeah.
Super. Definitely.
I'm not sure who's fully responsible, but having a crossing guard at Fifth and Park, and I know it's been all year, but not anything, is my favorite thing. So thank you. It has made it so much more secure and safe for our kids.
Further board comment? I appreciate staff, coaches, everybody's efforts. There was a great turnout, looked like a great participation number for spring sports and athletics. And so, looked like a lot of really enthusiastic, motivated adults that want to help a lot of really great, enthusiastic, motivated kids for some spring events. So great to see. All right. At this time, we'll stand for public comment. This is time for comment on matters that are not on tonight's agenda. Topics for public comment cannot include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. The board cannot enter into any discussion during general public comment. The board may occasionally ask a question to clarify a comment, or the board may correct an inaccurate statement. Is there any public comment tonight?
Just had a moment. Your elementary principal. Jumpstart program, you will get more information on that at the next board meeting, but I just want to let you all know that information for that program will be pushed out this week, and looking forward to seeing how many kiddos we get for that summer program.
Super. Further public comments? Yes, state your name.
My name is Kay Gibbons. I'm with American Legion Post 94 here at Stevensville. And I just want to announce that if we get candidates for the trustee position, the 3 positions that are open this year, other than our returning people who are already on the board, that we will be holding a forum, a candidate forum. We invite all the public to come to this forum because the candidates will be sitting up front like the board is now and asking questions. The public will be allowed to ask questions of the candidates to find out what their qualifications are, or whatever, any other questions that they want to know. So this is going to be, I think, the last, let me see if I can get to my calendar here. I think it's going to be, yes, Tuesday, April 22nd is the date that I've set up with Mr. Tennis. And if we do it, it'll be in, yes, no?
Let's confirm that.
The 29th.
He said the 20th.
I thought we were on for the 20th, 22nd.
20th is Sunday.
Well,
I love Vera Easter.
I have my calendar on the 22nd, but yes, Mr. Tennis, we could talk about that. On the date. We would be doing it actually in the multi-purpose room. Because last year we had a nice turnout, and so I'm hoping for an even bigger turnout this year, but spread the word. Family, friends, people in the Stevensville area, public is invited and encouraged to attend this forum. And that will be if we have other people running for trustee positions other than the 3 people on the board that are up for re-election. Thank you.
And aiming for 7 PM?
7 p.m. yes.
7 PM, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the effort in organizing that. Further public comment? All right, we'll move on to our approval of claims, and I believe there are some amended or adjusted claims in front of everybody, as well as claims in the packet. So Superintendent Tennis, I would ask that you guide us through these claims as they're presented here.
yeah, I want to point out a couple of things. Claim 42,175, which is some softball uniforms. We've made an adjustment internally. We will use some fundraised money that will be written from the ASB clerk to the district to pay back for the backpacks. So that money is going to change that. So it doesn't change your claim, but we'll write a check from ASB to the district to reimburse that.
Okay.
I do also, you'll see a smattering of late charges sprinkled throughout the claims. And I want to apologize for that because I had reassured you that that wouldn't happen again. And it happened again. And I apologize. And we are having discussions about how we can better fix this. You've done your part by giving us permission to pay those claims early. It is our responsibility to get the work done in the district office, and I intend to make some changes to do that. We discussed things like, because a lot of times we're waiting for receipts to come back. And so when we wait for receipts to come back, they don't always come in. We need to just pay the bill and then match the receipts up later. We've also had some conversations about potentially moving to a P card. There's lots of discussion about this, but the intent is to improve that process so that we aren't wasting money on late charges and fees and things like that. So I apologize that that has happened again, and we will do our darndest to not have that happen again.
Trustees, questions about tonight's claims or any clarification from Superintendent Tennis?
So I'd like to bring up something about the late fees. Just with the transitions we have going on, and thank you for, I know you're working at trying to get this done. Is this something the governance committee should we have a policy that says this? I mean, it's just teachers are already getting credit cards, trying to get receipts. Most of the time it's for, things that they shouldn't have to be spending money for anyway. And so then they're trying to do their extracurricular things and get paperwork done. So we just have a policy that that's how this happens, so that it gives more assertive leverage to our leadership to make sure that things happen.
Well, I think there's some truth to that, but our auditor expects that there are receipts and actual expenses. But what we're talking about internally is when we get a credit card bill, pay it, and then match up the receipts to that maybe after the fact. And if there are discrepancies and things that we find that maybe the credit card company made an error, then we would address that at that particular point.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting at all that that the receipts don't get turned in. I know they have to be done and as it should be, you know, just the timeliness of it, but that way if it's a policy, there's a little more teeth in it versus just giving you the latitude to pay it early. And so I just thought as a board, I think we ought to look at a policy that says that we do that. I mean, it's, everybody's scrambling for money and it's never a lot of money, but late fees and just are annoying and to everybody. So I just think it's something I'd like to see addressed as a policy if the governance committee would choose to take that out. I'll be quiet now.
No, nobody needs to be quiet. Obviously it's not an action item, so we wouldn't take a vote, but I certainly either governance or really the policy committee would be well equipped to look at that and see if there'd be an appropriate place for something like that to fit in our existing series of policies. I think that's certainly appropriate work for a committee to take a look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Until we figure out a final solution, we're just gonna, so what would happen is tomorrow, after these claims are approved, those checks get mailed. The due date is the 17th. And so this is what got us the last month is if that check doesn't arrive in Illinois in time, then there are late fees and that sort of thing. So that's the reason we want to move that up and start paying those as they're coming in rather than waiting. And then matching receipts later, but we're gonna solve this temporarily with priority mail. And then we'll come up with a process that is more sustainable. But I don't want to sit here in front of you next month with late charges.
Jennifer?
As a member of the policy committee, I understand what Tony is saying, but I don't think it would be appropriate for the policy committee to be making a policy. Policies tend to be set up on legal precedent, things that come from the legislature, paying, how we pay our claims. That's more of a procedure that is an admin function. I think they're, doing what they can to get those procedures in line. I don't think it's necessarily a policy issue that, obviously we can talk about it, but
Yeah.
as a policy committee member, I don't think really what the board policies are for. That's more in the day-to-day business of the school, which the board, delegates to
Sure.
the administration.
And I would say we need a better procedure.
Tony's just trying to get it done, and he's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and if there can be a little time spent talking about it, I think that would serve everyone well. And obviously a conclusion will be arrived at where it's appropriate, but I think shifting that conversation to that body would be the appropriate thing and talk through that a bit more. So, further questions on claims? All right, so in front of you tonight, you've got claims starting with 42,156. And looks like those go through 42,215. Nope, sorry, more than that. Sorry. Right over there. End with claim number 42,233. And 39 with the page that was added in there. Thank you. There's a second solution to that. Yeah, okay. All right, if there are no further questions, is there a motion related to tonight's claims?
I'll make a motion that we approve claims as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Fran and Billy, all those in favor of approving the claims as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. At our student accounts in it too, were there any questions about student accounts? We're square on those as well then. No. Okay. All right, on tonight's consent agenda, we have a number of employment items, including substitutes, a couple resignations, and a noteworthy and deeply appreciated the years of service from retirement. A very nice retirement notification letter in our packet. So we most certainly want to thank Paula Onstead for years of service to the district, work, support, commitment to advancing the district, advancing district goals, supporting efforts across multiple buildings. And so it's appreciated, and the retirement is not lost on this board. And so we appreciate that. We appreciate you. Thank you. Also on this consent agenda, I believe we have, do we have the administration striking an item?
Yes, so I would suggest that we strike Josie Lewis as the assistant high school soccer coach. We just got a little in front of ourselves. We haven't hired our head coach yet. But we want to hire our head coach and then do our assistants later. So there's all of those processes are in the works. So I would suggest we remove that item. And I want to echo, thank you to Paula. In life, you meet people that put you in positions to be successful and really try to support you. And Paula, you are one of those people for me. And I really appreciate you and the things that you've done for me and all the people here. So thank you.
I'm close to crying, so. It's a very hard decision, but can I just say?
Absolutely. The floor is yours.
I just want to thank Stevensville Schools. It has been a real joy to be in this district, and it's been a good 27 years. I mean, I've taught 35 and I've stayed here 27 years, and this is the place I wanted to be. I had great friends and great people to work with, and administrators, and the kids were so special. Your kids are just the best, and I appreciate every single one of them. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
You taught me well, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. So we are entering tonight's consent agenda, understanding that we are striking item 13 on the agenda. We'll revisit that later. Items on tonight's consent agenda have been organized as such due to their similar nature and been deemed unlikely by the superintendent and the board chair to require individual discussion. Any trustee has the right to request that an item be removed from the consent agenda to be debated and acted upon by itself. Does any trustee wish to remove an item from tonight's consent agenda? Trustee approval of the consent agenda only pertains to those items that trustees legally have the right to approve under Montana 2-3-202. Is there any objection to approving the consent agenda as presented with the deletion of item 13? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to our informational items. Superintendent Tennis, will you lead us with starting with the co-op, Bitterroot Valley Educational Co-op?
Yep, thank you. So I'd like to introduce Jenny Rammel and Ashley Gillespie to talk a little bit about our current reality in our CSCT program and give you a little bit of background on what's going on there. And so we'll turn the floor over to
Sure, thank you. I'm Jenny Rammel. I'm the director at the Bitterroot Valley Education Cooperative, BVEC, as it's well known. And it's a pleasure to be here this evening to speak to you about our CSCT program. We thank you for the opportunity. We also appreciate the partnership that we have with the district, being able to provide the related services for special education, but also the very important CSCT services for the school-based mental health services. Our gist for being here today. And this is Ashley Gillespie. She is the mental health programs manager. I'm going to kind of tag team getting this information out to you this evening. First of all, though, wanted to present to you the idea and remind everyone that these CSCT services have been provided to your district for well over 20 years, essentially free of any financial charge. When we were shut down, the hard shutdown during COVID, we did request a one-time startup fee at that time. The board graciously approved that, and after and during COVID, we were able to provide those services. This year for 24-25, the district has made a contribution to assist with sustainability in these services as well. And that helped us up and running to provide the services. CSCT, it has been a challenge with sustainability. There's some funding that we want to talk about and explain and some models. I'll turn that piece over to Ashley and we'll go from there.
So VBAC's provided high quality intensive mental health services that's primarily reimbursed by our Medicaid billing. During the public health emergency, Medicaid coverage for families stayed the same. Essentially for about 3 years, families are not required to submit their yearly redetermination paperwork. However, those redetermination processes have resumed and it's caused some families to lose coverage. This is for us resulted in the reduction of the number of Medicaid clients that we have on our caseload, thus also reducing our reimbursements. Another negative impact to our sustainability was the change in our Medicaid reimbursement model that happened in 2021. So the previous model, we were able to bill at a 15-minute increment. And they changed that to a flat daily rate. The state, after doing this for a few years, is now aware of the detrimental impact this has had on sustainability for CSCT throughout the state, and is now working to switch back to that 15-minute increment billing model. However, that reimbursement rate is still unknown. We do know that no final decisions are going to be made until after the current legislative session, so end of April. The cooperative, we also participated in a National Health Service Corps program that provided student loan repayment, and we utilized that as a hiring incentive. However, this program prohibits denying services due to the inability to pay. And CSCT must be offered to all qualified children regardless of payment source. So meaning we also offer our services to private insurance or self-pay and utilize a sliding scale. The requirement to provide services regardless of payment source has led to services being provided to qualified students without us receiving payment. So for the majority of those that we bill private insurance, that billing goes to their deductible and we don't see revenue for that. The sliding scale has been ineffective. We are finding that, we're also not getting reimbursement through that. So this last year, the cooperative has since left that National Health Service Corps program. And we've been discussing with our board the option of considering reducing services or exiting students from services for non-payment. To address some of this sustainability stuff, we're continuously looking for grant opportunities, as part of the solution. During the pandemic, there were some grant opportunities to help sustain the program, but those have since diminished. Along with, the state recognizing that sustainability is an issue, they've also offered stabilization grants for this school year. So we're expecting to receive about $1,275 per CSCT per month for this school year.
Thank you. So we all know that mental health wellness is important to Stevensville, to all districts in the Valley, quite frankly, districts nationwide. And that's that mental health for all of our students, and how that trickles down to staff and other students if the appropriate and intensive supports aren't in place. CSCT is one of those supports in your district that is essential to the mental health wellness of the district as a whole. These are tier 3 services that are provided, intense mental health services. Hiring an additional counselor does not meet the needs of the services that we were talking about here today. That is provided by the licensed mental health therapists that we have placed in your district. The value of these services is clear. I know families and staff, even some of you on the board, I'm sure, are well aware of how essential these CSCT services are in your district. But on the opposite, what a lack of those services, how detrimental that could be, and extremely disruptive to your entire school setting. Oftentimes the students that are qualified for these services exhibit pretty significant and very disruptive behaviors, not only on the classroom level, hallway level, in larger areas in your district. So a lack of these services could be very detrimental. Lack of services would also likely result in more discipline referrals, burdening the workload of your building administrators. Those discipline referrals leading to suspensions, and also recommendations for expulsions. So with the emphasis to keep these essential services, mental health services in your district, we have been engaging in ongoing discussions and endeavors to problem solve the sustainability problem that we are experiencing so that we can keep these services in the district. And the problem solving team is our superintendents from each member district in our valley. We know that with the real concern of sustainability for the program, we know that district contribution on a regular basis is going to be essential. It's going to be required, is necessary. So we're looking at a couple of things, again, continuously looking for any sort of grant opportunities, but we know that we need to consider perhaps a restructuring model. Right now in your district, we have 2 mental health therapists and 2 ECs currently. So there's 1 team at the elementary and 1 team at the secondary. With this to cut back on costs, but we believe still would be able to provide services, one model to consider would be a mental health therapist at the elementary, along with a BC on that team, and then a mental health therapist at your secondary level. We're open to discussing and problem solving, just kind of throwing out this model that has been considered. And again, it would mean a reorganization of staff, the current staff that we have. And we do have thoughtful consideration of that. So looking at that and thinking of 2 mental health therapists and a behavioral consultant in your district is going to require, the need for that and the cost of that would be approximately $216,000, but that includes salaries, benefits, any sort of overhead, training, licensure that these folks require. So when we first looked at our initial pass, looked at what could we do insofar as sustainability and what can that reimbursement cover as far as our costs, and what would we need to reach out and ask our districts for. So we kind of put it in a best case scenario and a worst consider here and to present to you tonight. So our best case scenario would mean a contribution from the district, if we were going to have those 3 folks in your district, $25,000 per person versus the $216, which is going to be the total cost. So that's our best case scenario information to give you this evening. Worst case scenario, of course, is going to be a little bit more than that, and that's up to $33,000 per person. So respectfully, just presenting that information to you, knowing that budgets are incredibly tight everywhere. But also emphasizing just the value and the importance of these services. And I know no one questions that, period. So just wanted to bring this information, to your attention. Without the restructuring and without the district contributions, we do know that we're going to have to give careful consideration as to the continuance of these valuable services. So just wanted to present that, give a little bit of time and space for you guys to answer questions. We're happy to do that at this point, but also wanted to communicate that we're more than willing to sit down and have further discussion, answer questions. Certainly Superintendent Tennis is on our board and can ask those questions and engage in those discussions at our VBEC board meetings. When are you guys looking at needing to change your funding model? We need it for the next year. Yeah.
What's Stevensville's Medicaid reimbursement figure? What's captured?
What you're capturing on that, I'm not sure if I can quote that off the top of my head right now, insofar as, but we could certainly get that number to you. Medicaid, percentage of Medicaid students, is kind of average for what we have in
Yeah,
the,
just our dollar amount. What's being billed? What comes back in?
yeah.
It changes just month to month based on, you know, how many kids are there.
Right.
We have a total,
Yeah.
we're serving 34 students total. But that's not just Medicaid, that's including those self-pay and those private
Okay.
insurance. We roughly have, I can get you exact numbers, but there's about 13, I believe, Medicaid students on the secondary. And I believe there's around 9 on the elementary caseload.
So you'd be decreasing staffing by one behavioral consultant? That's correct. In the district? That's correct. In that model that we're proposing, again, we can kind of look at different, but yeah, that's what the model that we've developed. What do you think that'll do to services for the kiddos? You know, the importance, it'll have an impact. Really what we're looking in the deciding factor is at the elementary level, having that behavioral consultant at that level is just critical. That person is going in and supporting recess, lunchtime, classroom time, between classes. The high school students rely less on that, and so that's what the impetus was for making that proposal. But it's just a great question. Mhm.
And we have
Have you,
Sorry, thank you.
have you factored in any of the possibilities that Medicaid is going to be turned over to the state? And it is essentially going to be vastly reduced. And this is probably coming faster than any of us want to.
It's definitely a concern, and that would certainly impact the longevity of our program potentially. Right now, we're working on what the projections that we have based on the numbers and the status of that programming right now.
So everything you're done today is based on what the system as it is today, which could very well change between now and the opening of school in the next year. What percentage of your total is from Medicaid?
The majority of our funding is coming from the
Like
Medicaid.
70%, 90%?
Yeah, I would
idea?
say that 75%. Yeah.
So this would be substantial if it gets hit.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have we looked at how that will, what we can incorporate and how that'll impact our budget and put numbers together for that?
So it's, obviously, there's a limited amount of funds, and so when you think about things like this and you talk and you advocate for mental health support, one of the things I think is really challenging for our staff, our administrators, our teachers, our paras in dealing with mental health is the lack of understanding, the lack of really knowing what to do. And, you know, when you can defer to somebody that is trained to help you with that, it's really helpful. And the absence of a service like that results in teachers, administrators, paras, well, everybody having to do more. And that worries me. So finding some way to sustain this service for our students, not only our students, because I'm reading the question on the back of my thing, Mr. Lewis, what's best for our students. But I think it matters for our staff too. And so we would have to explore ways to do this through our current reality in our budget. And that's not easy because it's a challenge. It's not an ideal challenge for anybody. And I don't have the magic answer to that at this particular point, but I know it's a need. And we just have to explore ways to see if we can't solve that problem.
Is it a general fund budget item or are there other resources?
Could be a budget transfer, could be, like that. We would have to have some conversations about that in terms of our resource committee and what is a potential solution for us.
Could it be part of tuition fund?
It doesn't necessarily fit into that because the tuition fund is this is separate from special education services, and a lot of our tuition fund is to serve special education needs. And yes, there's some, you know, it's, if you think about a Venn diagram, there's some overlap there, but they are two separate
But they are
things.
separate.
I want to thank y'all for bringing us this information because, you know, it's helpful for us to be able to prepare for our next budget year. But I also want to take this opportunity to thank y'all for the services that y'all give to our school. The services that you're giving, like Mr. Tennis is saying, is not just for our students, it's for our staff. And having a daughter who is now a paraprofessional at the school district, it is so needed. And I cannot imagine what our school district or any school district would be like without the services that you guys provide. Not only the effect that it would have going away for our students, but like Mr. Tennis is saying, for our staff. So I want to thank you for the services that y'all tried so hard to provide and the compromises that y'all have tried to make over the years to make sure that not only our students, but our staff are being taken care of through the CSCT program. So thank you.
I love that you opened with, nobody wonders if this is a valuable service. That is a given. That is absolutely given. So thank you for laying that down to just begin with. When do you need commitment for us to be able to plan your year? So if we sit down and start processing, and when would you have a sense of if we are worst case scenario, best case scenario, or is that something that's going to fluctuate based on monthly funding?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the worst case, best case scenario, that's based on what we're able to bill now, based on, we have staff openings that were unexpected, and also absenteeism has played into that. So that's where that fluctuation band comes from. So we're in a position where knowing in April so that we can offer our contracts to staff. If I'm delaying past April, then the concern is that staff are concerned and they're looking for other opportunities and avenues as well. We would also, what we did this year for the contribution this year, we sent out an invoice December, January, asking for that money, knowing we communicated that out ahead of time. This year's a little different. So with the grants, we will be squeezing our reserve that
we need to have. It is essential for payroll, and that's the only purpose for that is to put us ahead and afloat there. So we would need district contributions at the beginning of the fiscal year.
So is there a plan in place right now to start attacking this issue?
Yeah, I think we've been in discussions, you know, at the feedback board and with other area superintendents. I think to dig into our own budget to see where we're at. You know, I think I would echo what Stephanie has said and what Jenny has said and Ashley has said is that everybody understands the value. But we are in a position to make hard choices, and so we have to figure out how we're gonna do that. So I would like to do some planning with our research team and see what we can do.
Public, questions or comments for the, educational co-op? Right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you very much
Thank
for your time.
Forward to a, student council report. Pleased to have a student council representative here tonight. Thank you.
I'm Addison. I'm part of the student council here. We have some exciting things going on in high school right now. Our Students on Fire is holding their annual coffee house performance in the high school gym at 3 p.m. this Saturday. The theme is going to be Disney classics. Our DECA business education students are working on their Hack My School proposals for the grant program. The DECA School Store and McKenna Monroe, who's back there in brown shirt, are competing to receive some funding. And they are also busy fundraising for their upcoming trip to the national DECA competition in Florida. They're going to be doing they're running up a speech and debate to host a trivia night. Those are included in the information on those. And then our FCCLA is getting ready for their state leadership conference next week in Bozeman. They will be competing in star events and skill demonstrations. Our FFA is been busy with district and invitational contests. We've placed first in districts, ag technology and mechanics in Kalispell, and we had lots of individuals placed there. Last week, we also hosted the Western District Leadership Competitions, where students from the 10 Western District FFA chapters competed in a bunch of events. One of our own members, Adelaide Meyer, took first place in comparative public speaking, and she will move on to compete with the top 16 speakers at the end of the month. So that's pretty awesome. Our FFA also traveled to Conrad for crops mechanics and veterinary science. We had many people placed there as well. They're preparing for their state competition in Bozeman on March 31st. And they are going to have 5 students receiving their state FFA degree this year. Wednesday, we'll be attending the Kiwanis Club to talk about the year and make a report to the Kiwanis members there. Our Key Club donated to the Disabled Veterans Fair this year and the Santa Sleigh for seniors as the year finished up. Our NHS is gearing up for a blood drive. If you want to donate to that, it'll be on April 30th and register on the Facebook page or at American Red Cross. Our pep club is going to hold an Easter egg hunt with the elementary students for Easter after spring break. Our student council has some fun things coming up. We're preparing for spring pep assembly. We're gonna recognize the spring sports. The cheer team's gonna do a performance, and then we're gonna announce the valedictorian and the salutatorian. We also have a fun spring spirit week coming up next week. We picked the dress up days for that, so that'll be fun. And then we have some other exciting things hopefully coming up that we've been planning for. Our spring sports kicked off yesterday with tryouts, and all the sports had a great turnout. Our tennis team had 22 people try out.
which was the biggest turnout for tennis since 2022. Their first match was going to be March 29th. Our softball team had 26 people show up, and they had eighth graders participated from Lone Rock and Steve this year. And so the coaches were really excited for that. Our baseball team had 22 come out, but they're expecting some more. And our track team had a really good turnout with around 40 people. They have a big growing population and lots of people interested in jumping. So those coaches are also very excited for that. Our art in the high school, they're gearing up for some spring art shows. They're sending some works to the DNRC, the ATR showcase, and the Legion Poppy contest. They had some winners last year, so they're hoping to bring back some more wins there. And then they're also planning to participate in the Hamilton Art Crawl. And they're hopefully going to bring some money from that. Finishing the year off, the senior class is planning for graduation in May. And they're also finalizing their trips for their money and details for their senior trip coming up. Our junior class is working on prom. Our theme this year is A Night Under the Stars, and that's going to be at the Homestead in Victor on April 5th. And our sophomore class is just conducting some fundraising to start next spring.
Well, thank you, Addison.
Great job, man.
Yes, what,
I just
Dan?
wanted to really quickly just add to that and give a special thank you to Fran for organizing a prom dress, and there are some male wear in there too, but mostly prom dresses. So organizing a giveaway for our students who don't have a dress for the and then also has organized an opportunity for our students to make their own boutonnieres and corsages, because those are very expensive items for the prom. So Fran approached me about that. We were able to work out some ways to get those things in action. So thank you so much for all the work you've done with that, Fran. I know it's going to mean a lot to a lot of our students.
Well, and thanks to Gigi Florals is the one who's taking care of the flowers. She's providing everything, and she's only charging the students $10 an arrangement to come in and make their own. So that's a great savings for our students, and it's an opportunity for them to learn another skill as well. So thank you, Danny.
Any questions?
Just
Nathan?
comment more than anything.
Yeah.
Trevor, you've done an incredible job having a kid that's in your class, but more importantly, I think that when we did the superintendent's search, if you want to call it that, everybody was very impressed with the level of professionalism and what you're providing to the kids. So, and you can look at all of this. You guys are all good. It's pretty awesome. So thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. And I would add to that, I would add that I think we all know and are deeply appreciative of fantastic things that are happening in the elementary and the middle school. It's, a little more challenging to have, somebody report on that the same way. And so I want to acknowledge that we're hearing great things there. I want to follow up broken record effect that it seems like every time we get a high school report this year, a student council report, I say it's the best one I've ever heard as a board member. Yeah. And then you come or you or somebody else, council gives another report, and then it's the best one. So I mean that, honest to God, these are meaningful reports that are clarifying and sharing the great things. And so these great things have been happening. Now you're doing a fantastic job.
It's awesome
of sharing. Yeah. So thanks.
Thank you.
And it will work in the real world. I promise you.
Yes, yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give a report like this. Absolutely. Tony.
So I think the report's awesome, 100%, but there's some really cool things in here. There's a couple of really cool photographs that ought to be in our local newspaper. Every day, everybody asks me, every time we go out and talk about school, they talk about, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. Well, here we are. There's 50% of the people in the community don't know that you have a welding school, a welding class in your shop. And here it is, a really cool picture. Same with your woodworking program, your construction classes. Nobody knows. So you need to call your campaign manager. Oh. This needs to get out there. And if it needs funding, I will help find you the funding to get this out there so that the community knows, because at the end of the day, this school lives or dies on students coming to this school. And we have to get and it has to be through all things, sports, our CTE classes, and academics. And if we can do those three things, we'll fill the school up, we'll have money to pay our bills, pay our teachers. Life will be much better, but nobody, we are a secret right now, and we need to stop being a secret and put this out. And this is totally amazing, and thank you.
You do.
And, thank you, Tony. What, Nathan?
What he's talking about is very real, and just picking on you for a second, because a lot of my business goes off of social media, and it's free. And if you need, like what Tony's talking about, if you need, I just bought a pair of Meta glasses. So my son wanted them. I was like, I'll buy them for my ramp. It's very cool to be able to say, when the kids get ready to do something, hey, Meta record. And then you grab a 3-minute video and you put that up. It can really, really grow to where people are like, hey, why don't we go there? Why don't we go talk to Trevor? Why don't we go talk to Dan? Why don't we go see what Stevensville's about? Because he's absolutely right. What we're doing here is cool. But we only got 40 people knowing about it. Don't we cheer?
Well, I think our admin has done a great job of promoting our Facebook pages and promoting these things
John's done great.
out there. I think unfortunately we live in a community that some people love social media, some people hate it, some people are paying attention, some people aren't. I think same goes for the paper. We have, some people who they read the paper, but then a lot of people, part of it is a community issue, and that I don't think it's not like in other places where you have one great source of information. I think it's splintered everywhere. And so everything that you guys are doing, I think, is a good thing. And I just wanted to throw out there my trivia team for Friday night. There's some more people if anyone wants to join.
All right, thanks all. And thanks again for good comments and good report. Superintendent Tennis, you have as tall act to follow.
I'm the one that created the agenda. I don't know what I was thinking. This should go down first. So just wanted to point out a couple of things. I won't go through everything, and feel free to stop me and ask questions. But we have, and it says in my report, TBD negotiations. We will begin our interest-based bargaining with the Stevensville Teachers Association on Monday, the 17th. So that is a little shift. We were originally scheduled for Tuesday. So that's exciting to get that process going. I want to remind everybody about our listening session next Wednesday at 2:30 in the NPR for anybody interested in attending that. So it's a little earlier than normal. We wanted to make it available for staff to have opportunity to share. And other than that, I did want to point out some things with resource. We've been following and crossing our fingers and planning for some upgrades to school funding with the STARS Act. I included a updated job description in this packet, just so you're aware of that. That is the reason that that's in there, is because that's a requirement of the STARS Act for quality educator payment for our business manager. So I just added about 15 or 16 extra duties for her. So that's in there now. And so now that that's been presented to you, that's the truth. So excited to continue to talk about that. It's nice to hear, some of our lawmakers, our legislators talking about helping schools. And I'm happy to hear that. So those are some of the highlights. Feel free to ask any questions that you have. Any other questions?
I've got one.
Okay.
Now that most of the flow is gone, are we talking about parking lots again?
Most of the,
The snow?
we haven't had that conversation, but we can definitely rekindle that conversation in facilities.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks to measure.
Yeah, I think I said that.
On the, I know we've talked a bit before about the enrollment report. Are we just looking for the date when we'll get the zeros cut back up? So we just have this long-term historical. I know there was something that happened in the fall that caused us that, but it was my understanding at some point we'd get that data filled back in.
We can try. This is a head count, and so it will be more of an estimation than actual head count, but we can certainly try to estimate.
I think it's valuable because we have so many years of this, the longevity of this. I think it's valuable to have, and if it has to have an asterisk by it, it has to have an asterisk by it. Likewise then, trying to understand the K-6 total. Thank you, Mr. Kaney. The K-6 total, just making sure again for the accuracy of long-term data. We've got our zeros in the fall, so I guess I'm on the third page of it, the way it's broken out in the packet here. And so our totals in the fall are zeros. We know why that is because there was some issues in the fall. But then in 23-24, I think we're misreporting that because our totals are way off for K-6. I wonder if we could correct that.
You're talking about that shaded line at the bottom there?
No, the shaded line for the 2023-24 school year for all of K-6 is reporting 70 kids, 68 kids, 65, and I'm sure that's not right.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not right.
Yeah, and just for historical accuracy, I'd love to get that right because I really look through these reports to look for our trends, and I think others do too. Yes, Fran?
I have one question along those same lines. On the senior class, we seem to have been off quite a bit this year on the senior class numbers. We're showing that the senior class is currently, if I'm reading this right, at 68, but infant campus is showing it at 57. And that's been off quite a bit there. So I'm just wondering, I'm assuming that the ALC's numbers are included in Infinite Campus. I just don't know what the discrepancy. We seem to have a consistent about 10 consistency difference between what we're being reported and what's showing on Infinite Campus.
Yeah, I'd have to dig into that.
Okay.
All right. Time for our a middle school report. So this is part of our twice a year update and hearing from our three main buildings that we have. And it sounds like folks are ready to share that on behalf of or in cooperation with Ms. Armour.
Yeah, you, were able to read through that. Do you have any questions for this summer that we could answer for you? Or try?
Sure.
Council, we'll jump to some good stuff real quick. I believe we've got a couple middle school kids who are ready to do their middle school report, right? You didn't sit through this whole thing for nothing. Go ahead, guys. You want to introduce yourselves and then go ahead and do your report?
So I'm Marietta, and this is sixth grade, and so we had an assignment about 2 weeks ago, and it started on Thursday. And so we have this 15-ish minute class advisory that you basically do any missed work in or like free time, you can clean out your locker binder. And so this assignment over like 3 days was to make a poster about growth mindset and fixed mindset. And so on growth mindset, you have, well, we decided that on both sides, you have like this frame. And so you have, on growth mindset, you have a frame with flowers that are growing. And fixed, you have a frame that's more like dead and chained up. So it's not growing, it's just sitting there, not responding to anything.
Good job.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
How many people helped make the poster and come up with the concept?
So like for art, there was different groups.
Mhm.
So our teacher was like, split into groups and made a poster that goes, you were supposed to have 3 things on fixed mindset that turn into growth mindset. And the Mrs. Armour and Mrs. Tina decided who won. And so, we have, I don't know how to say it. Yeah, there was 3 groups, so one for 6th grade, 1 7th, and 1.
Beautiful. Are the posters on display anywhere in the middle school?
I think Miss Armour took them.
Okay.
I don't know if she did.
So it's not at her house.
And it looks like it's a whole like bullet board. It's like 8 feet long. It's big. That's awesome. Cool.
Well done, guys.
Yeah, yeah. It's very good. So then did you do some computer work too, or is it all hand drawn stuff?
It's all.
It's all hand, well, that fooled me. It looked like it was done by computer.
Not that one. That one was on the computer.
Okay,
That was not the poster we all did as 8th grade. That was like the one as a teacher.
oh, gotcha. Then you did your own better one.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Got it.
The one that Miss Ever took for a house.
Got it. Well, thank you, Rieta, and I'm sorry I missed your name.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Fran?
I really like the kudos cards that have been happening. I've been seeing those on social media, and to see Ms. Armour's report about that was really nice. And I'm glad to see that Booster Club is jumping in other areas besides just the high school and participating and motivating our students. So I'm glad to see that coordination of efforts there.
I just wanted to ask if any of you guys know, so this is the first year they've been doing advisory, is that right? I'm not tracking.
They didn't do it last year, but they did it, I think, the year before.
Okay. With the hour long or drink block.
I think it was longer the
Yeah,
year before.
that makes sense. How are you guys finding it? Like, have you guys heard feedback from it? Do you guys like it?
I think it's a nice short period that's like, you, honestly, coming from me, because I know missing parts, you basically read your book in it, but like, sometimes when you do have missing work, it's a good time to be in a classroom that you don't do anything in.
So it can be useful in that way. The other one was, there's an Amazon wish list or something that you referred to. Is that posted somewhere so people can access it and share it? And
When I read that, I wanted to see if she has that on Facebook. So I don't have to censor
Sure.
that,
But you're asking too, so that's gonna go places. Thank you.
I think that would be good if, the Booster has a pretty good net that they can throw. So if we pass that to Christie, then that'd be good for her to share. Maybe other boosters.
I wanted to ask a general admin question because I appreciate seeing this on all these reports, and that's the attendance. The studies all show how vital that is, and so I'm glad we're talking about it and being honest about it. So, and elementary, and I think it's kind of through nationwide, has higher attendance, and then we start to see the slide, and I don't think Stevensville's in some sort of worse place than anywhere else. But what can be done? What can the board do? I mean, is there anything a board of trustees could do? Is there, and this is not a middle school question, this is just everywhere, but when when we're not getting kids come to school in this chronic absenteeism, it's just messy. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
I don't know the answer to that one right now. As I'm reading this, I'm looking at the attendance, right? If you're like me, you're matching the attendance to the adults and so forth.
Yeah.
Your lowest attendance is also your lowest results.
Yeah.
When you look at it. So, it's very obvious that if you come to school, you're gonna learn more. And so our job is to figure out how to convince people, how to convince kids, parents, community that it's important to be here and be able to show that when you are here consistently, you're going to learn more because you have good stuff to offer, great stuff to offer kids when they're here. But yeah, 91, 88, 89, those are similar. High schools were same rate. Our kids will do better if they're here more. So you're just saying, but as far as what you can do, I think we just have to all come together as a community and come up with some ideas on how to make this important and valued.
How many days are in a quarter?
Roughly 45.
Yeah, 45.
So-
Semester, 180, yeah.
So 45 is as a parent.
90%.
So six. So if you took off, and I'm just speaking as a parent, for our October break, and then for the October 2 days that the school gets off, and then there's 3 days of school.
Mhm.
And then for Christmas, we come back for, our 2 days before the first week. And I realized the break there. I'm just saying like stuff that I can think of quickly. That's 13% of 45 days.
Oh, out of a quarter, yeah.
Right.
And, right.
And I'm just saying like, when we look at those as a family, the way I look at them as a family, like my kids can miss 3 days, but the family can get 7 days off.
Sure.
So my family plans vacations around that.
Sure.
You look at stuff like that. I don't think it's necessarily, we don't want our kids to be there. But when you look at a calendar in the beginning of the year, and maybe the public can speak up and maybe you guys do the same, or maybe you don't. But I'm just saying as a family member, I don't think it's necessarily any reflection on the school.
I think what the difference is, and I don't know, I certainly don't want to speak to, how you manage your students in school, but I'm going to make an assumption.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. My assumption would be that you talk to your kids well in advance and they're going to be, hey, we're going to miss those 3 days prior to the 2 days you have off. Get your homework, talk to your teachers, be square ready to go. I think what typically, when we look at these numbers nationwide, is these are kids who have not touched base with anybody. It's not your kids. And I don't mean about your
No, I
kids,
know.
but it's not the kids who are touching base. Hey, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be gone this whole week. It's just no communication, no, in some cases, and obviously there's 1,000 ways this can happen,
Yeah.
but it's 7:55 in the morning and just not going to school. And so I think that's more the, when we talk about chronic absenteeism versus your kids, other kids who are who are, you know, really squared away on this and really, yeah, so sure, do they all get caught in the same fishing net when we caught? Yeah, they are in the stats.
Right.
But the data is just so, yeah, when I cast that net, I'm definitely not asking for that, but the data is just so overwhelming about when we talk chronic absenteeism. So I appreciate the staff being reported.
You and I had talked a little bit about it, but is that something to where, like, as an administration, we could talk more about the Harmony program to still help these kids get an education? You know, to where.
Well, sure, yeah, if they're completely exiting the in-person experience at the school.
Or the chronic, you know, where they're
Yep,
not getting
yep.
help.
So,
I think the number one strategy that I've researched is obviously relationships between the school and family. Right, the stronger relationship, or if every kid has some type of a connection to the school, there's a much higher chance that they're going to be able to get connected. So it goes back to the same theory of knowing that the more connections the student has, just other than just the classroom, to the school as well, the more they're going to want to be there too. So I don't know. I just, one of the things I would say is keep looking for opportunities for our students to be able to be connected to an MHSA activity, a group, a club, all these other different things that is outside also that get them connected to our school too. Done some research on that in the last school I was at, looking at, we found out that kids that were in MHSA sports, a club or an activity at the high school level, were 1.0 GPA higher than kids that weren't connected at all, right? And so what does that tell us? Well, it's a common thing across the nation, is like how well you're connected to your school. So that's one thing we can do, is keep looking at ways we can connect their kids to their school.
Tony?
So I keep coming back to this report. And I look at these photographs. Think about what Nate said about social media. Every kid wants to make videos. You know, I have one account with 20,000 followers. You could put videos out, little clips where these kids, all of a sudden, school became popular. When parents look at this and go, oh man, my kid could be a welder, he could be a carpenter, nobody knows. And so, and I've been known to scroll a little bit on social media. I have yet to see anything from the Stevensville school scrolling on social media at 3 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep from 3 to 5 or something. We are a secret. People don't know what we do. They don't know we're here. And so if what we're doing is popular, kids will come. I guarantee if they think they're missing out on something, they will show up. I absolutely promise you. And the other thing is it gives a way for parents and community members to encourage kids to show up at school. So you have kids here that want to make videos and kids here that want to pound nails. There's so much that could be done that needs to be integrated into what we're doing so we can get our message out to everybody in the community. I think it is vitally important. I think it helps with attendance a lot. It doesn't speak to any of the situations that Nate was regarding the planning of family vacations. That's a little bit different topic. But nobody knows what we do here. Nobody has any idea what's going on in the school.
I know that Mrs. Armour has been posting almost daily. She's really good at especially these kudos things on Facebook. Mr. Conan posts way more than I do on our Drillshare app website as well as social media. We just reported about our dodgeball events that we're doing this week with the little club. Teachers are not letting any of their classes win, by the way. Apparently they're a competitive bunch. But I do think that we are trying to spread those stories more through Facebook and Drillshare.
So if you're not looking for Stevensville School, I never see it just pop up. I've never, and I'm, you know, you can look at my screen time. It's probably around 5 hours a night or something, and it's never come up. And I live, you know, I'm part of the school, so I just, you know, I don't know. I'd be willing to pay for a social media app where it's geofences our community and puts it out and see what happens, see what we could do with it. I just think it's worth experimenting because what we're doing, whatever it is not getting to everybody.
Well, I mean, I think it is because I see it on Facebook. I see people sharing things on the Stevensville Facebook pages that are coming out of the school. So I think saying that it's not out there, I'm not sure why I'm seeing it and you're not seeing it. I mean, yes, I have followed all the school pages, but I also follow local community pages and they're sharing that information out there. So I think the information is getting out there, and I think one of the, I don't know if it's good or bad, is absenteeism is a chronic issue that schools are seeing across the nation. And I think it's changed a lot since COVID. And I think kids that used to always come to school maybe don't as much. And I think it depends on, there's so many factors. And I don't think there's a, one thing that you can do to bring kids into school. I know that when I was in school, back in high school, I was considered a chronic absentee. I had parents who felt education was a really big thing. But I had my own issues. And so, but for me, it became a huge point to not allow my children to be chronic absentees. So there's so much that goes into it. I don't think asking anyone for an answer. I think it's definitely something we all need to work on, but.
Right. Fran?
Tony, I'm gonna respectfully, tell you that that's wrong information because I scroll my Facebook every night and every night I see something coming from our school district. I came into bed, I was asked to read at the elementary school this last week, and I got to read and it got posted online about it. I see the kudos constantly and actually, I think it is amazing the stuff that's being posted because I know the extra time and effort that go into that these teachers and secretaries are taking the time to do it. Our FFA does post. I just saw an FFA post today about the competition last week. Is that correct, Mr. Motley?
The high school page shared it.
Yes, so each of the pages that the school has, they're sharing with each other. I think the challenge might be getting those pages more seen. I recently saw the Stevensville School District page, didn't know that page existed. So I think it's more about sharing those pages, and maybe I need to take your phone and like them for you so that you can have them come up on your news feed. So my point is though, is that I think it's out there. There's always room to be better with having it out there, but there's a lot of work going on in our district from various different organizations and our administrators to get that information out there and give kudos to our school district and our students, our staff, and everyone. I really appreciate the high school's new awards that they do every week and highlight students, and not just students, but staff members and things that are going on. And I really enjoy seeing that and the publicity that it gives to our students and our staff members for the good work that is going on in our school district.
I appreciate all the comment and obviously I brought up the question about attendance and I appreciate all that's been said. I hope we're in a setting where maybe both things can be true. I don't have a comment on what I see on social media or don't, but I will say I do think there's probably value in both perspectives in that we know we're succeeding because of the testimony tonight of people with children in the school district. I have children in the school district and we're hearing from a board member that does not. And so are we missing somehow through the algorithm, through whatever it is, some circle that way? And so I think there's undoubtedly without a doubt that it's getting out there why why it's possibly not reaching people who aren't directly connected in the school district or that sort of thing, or whatever that looks like. You know, it's probably healthy to explore and keep growing.
I don't actually have.
I know, but I think your years of having people here, I understand that. But I would think that a lot of that's residual as well from that as well. So, other items with middle school report. Appreciate you sharing that on behalf of Mrs. Arnold. Right. We would have right behind that in the packet a curriculum report.
Just one page here.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Conan.
My goal was to have a recommendation to bring to you for this board meeting. Unfortunately, some things, I didn't want it to be an issue, but some things happened in my own life. I was with my mom last week. I was unable to have the series of meetings I wanted to have to be able to bring that forward. We did have a meeting tonight. We have a couple of follow-up questions with the company that we are interested in, and we should hopefully have that for you by this next week for a recommendation for at least K through 5. We have another couple of presentations for middle school and high school. We've been trying to base every program that we are reviewing off of a couple of things. One is called an education report. Edreport.com does ed reports on all the curriculum companies that are out there that put curriculum out, and they have a rubric that they base them on. So we read that report, and we also look to see if they meet the criteria for the science of reading. I included some of that in the board report this time, talking about some of the main 4 foundations for the science of reading, making sure that any program that we have follows up with the elementary program at the middle school and high school levels. So we have another presentation on Thursday afternoon with another company, and we might bring the elementary before the other 2. We've had a couple middle school ones. The one that we like right now also has a middle school component to it, all the way to 8th grade, which we feel like would be pretty powerful to build upon from the elementary right into the middle school program. We will see how it goes with this next one, and goal is to have at least the elementary for you by next week. Continue working for trying to find the best resources for middle school and high school. It's a little bit different once you get into specific courses at the high school level of what type of curriculum you want to put in front of kids. So we really want to make sure that it follows well with what we have at the elementary and the middle school. Any questions on that piece of it?
Do you know what a rough idea around cost? We set some goals as a board to, be ready to fund that and prioritize that. So I don't want to say we're excited to do it, but I'm excited to do it. Do we know what that looks like?
Well, 2 large bills, right around 200,000.
Okay.
That's what they're going right for most of the programs that are out there right now.
I'm less excited, but definitely. Yeah, no, it's good. We have said for a long time that we need to prioritize this. So getting the work done is critical.
Yeah, to be honest, I think the number 1 purchase a district can make is the reading program.
Okay.
It helps every other subject area that we do. We've got to have a solid foundation. The research in the past has been trying to get kids to read by 3rd grade. And now the research coming out from the science of reading, and you're seeing a lot of these states put in policy, state laws across the nation, right? And our state's one of them is looking at that, doing the same thing. Because we know that we got to get kids caught up by 1st grade. It's not waiting till 3rd grade. 3rd grade is almost too late to make sure a kid knows how to read. It's got to be at that 1st grade level and then not leaving. That's kind of our goal. So with that being said, even though it is a large price tag, I don't think any other curriculum is going to be that expensive. cost of math might be, depending on the number of manipulatives that you buy with your math program that we do, but this is for probably a 5 or 6 year rotation cycle. Yeah, as you know, at the beginning of the year, I kind of reported on the fact that state law says you must review your curriculum every 5 years. And so we feel like buying for 5 or 6 years puts us through that next curriculum cycle that comes out from OPI. They require you to go back and review your standards in your district to see if the resources you have match the standards that they are reviewing to do. My other goal is to get some of our own staff onto some of these OPI teams. It helps so much in the districts where I've been to actually have someone from your district going to or working with OPI. A lot of this is online now since COVID. They do a lot of their curriculum work via Zoom. But getting some of your own people on these teams to review the curriculum, because then you know the process and why they're changing the curriculum that they do. But every subject area should be reviewed every 5 years. And so we'll have they haven't pushed out the new curriculum cycle yet, so I would like to have for you a 5-year cycle for every single subject. So we know which subject is coming up. Be nice to know, kind of like your rotation for your jerseys, right? Like every 5 years or so, let's look at jerseys. Same thing with curriculum. Let's look at our curriculum. If our curriculum's good and it matches and we don't have to change it too much because it meets the standards, then we can keep using that curriculum and maybe not use that so much money to supplement and put it towards another subject area. So the other piece of this is the budget side of it. It's like, how do you build into the budget continuous cycle? AA districts have a hard time sometimes of doing it, but a lot of times they build in a curriculum cycle of having a line item. It is more difficult for class A and down to do that. A lot of times districts class A and down are looking at end of year funds, like how much is left, how much can we put towards curriculum. I really think it's smart, giving him kudos now, but Mr. Tennis has looked at how can we develop and put in a line item into our budget at our level, because the districts that are successful at curriculum adoption have a line item for curriculum. They can rely on the money it's going to be there. So we know that next year there might be math, so we're going to start looking at math. There's the amount of money we have for math. And so we can kind of make sure that there's enough there to make a feasible, effective, efficient purchase through that line item. So thanks, Mr. Tennis, for doing that.
Is that really how we budget curriculum, is by what's left over?
We haven't purchased curriculum since I've been here, and I think
It just seems odd, we're a school, I mean, I know there's a lot of
And
other
it's
things.
the expense.
I mean, I don't hate that.
This is an important adoption.
It's hard to build into a budget.
No, the work you've done is gonna get us there, and it's so important. Dan?
What has to happen is what is happening. And that's attention has to be paid to the curriculum. If you ignore the curriculum or you only pay lip service to it, then you end up with situations where you're behind the 8 ball and you're constantly trying to play catch up in a curriculum area or across your curriculum. So kudos to the administration, because the attention is being paid to curriculum finally. And it's about time that this district is starting to pay some attention to what we're really here about, and that's to educate kids through curriculum.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any smaller, less broad sweeping curriculum things too that, I know your attention's been with this, but is there, a class here that's gonna look at a new set of textbooks, or just the things that we've got behind on that?
There are a couple other subject areas that
Good.
I know some high school teachers have been chatting with me about too.
Good.
I'm brand new to this job, and I'll say there's some of our books that are 10 years old. Right?
Well, and no, I don't bring that up to discourage it, from like a fiscal, I bring it up from get it in front of us so we can get around it and hopefully make it happen. Yeah. So if there's stuff, it's been ignored. Thank you. Stephanie.
Are the curriculums you're looking at, are they handheld materials, online, combination?
Most everything is going to both, like that kind of a hybrid piece. So there'll be an online portion to it, but there'll also be something to get hands to. really feel that's an important part of it as well. Like in the curriculum report, I kind of talked about the five major components of those foundational skills of making sure we have phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, fluency, just making sure we have those pieces within the elementary program. State standards obviously dictate what we teach across the board, but we're making sure that we get our essential standards that we're choosing covered with the curriculum that we have too. So that'll be the next piece of this also that we're doing simultaneously, right? We've chosen our essential standards and now we're creating curriculum guides to go with it. And so it'd be nice to have the curriculum that we know that we're going to purchase to be able to put that into at least the elementary plan. And then looking at, we piloted a couple pieces to get ready for the middle school and high school. It's called IXL, so reading and math. But it actually has 4 different subject areas of social studies, science, math, English language arts, and I think the Spanish component too as well. But that piece will help us with being able to design assessments, being able to assess our kids on benchmark tests 3 times a year. There's a whole bunch of pieces to it that we feel like is going to be beneficial when we start building these curriculum guides as we go forward. That we're going to be able to get some. When I talked in my interview about some of the metrics that we want to look at, what do we want to look at for data? Well, we have obviously state testing. One of the things that we need to look at too is classroom-based assessments. How well are we doing? How well are we doing in our classes, and being able to bring that data together with that state assessment, because hopefully that correlates, right? Our classroom assessments correlate to how we score on our state tests if we're all dealing with standards-based curriculum. And so Grandioso sounds huge plan, but if in 3 to 5 years, I'm hoping we can have every single subject with all of that together, if not sooner.
And how do you guys have done such an excellent job of doing so much alignment from early literacy through 12th grade. How do you go about, if it's not the right curriculum all the way through, pairing those things? You're just finding information that's out there, or are you looking for key connectors?
So when you're looking at the curriculum to make sure it matches, all right, again, going back to, we brought in a literacy consultant to help us, national literacy consultant that helped build first our foundation of our understanding as a committee, K through 12, with all of our teammates. And then we started looking at the red flags in programs, but we also started taking a look at some of the components that are non-negotiables that we gotta have in these programs, right? And so we felt like if we can get the non-negotiables down at the foundational level of the elementary, that we need our middle school and high school program to agree with that all the way through. And so the hard thing, there is no great program that's PK to 12, like one company out there. Like there are companies that have curriculum PK to 12, but they're not solid all the way through. So you're going to find most districts across the nation have different programs at their different levels. But the biggest key is making sure it all agrees with those foundational skills and the science of reading. And hoping most companies now that are coming out are doing that. They're not going to get their curriculum sold very well if they're not meeting those two pieces. That's why states, to be honest, are putting in those laws. Like some states are telling the district which curriculums they can buy. And they have a short list for some of these states. If you've looked at some of these other states out there. So Montana has not done that, which I'm kind of glad they haven't done that yet. But it is good to know that we are basing our programs off of a possible state law that we might have coming up anyway. So.
Good to know. Thank you. Thank you for that report. Questions from the public on curriculum and where we're headed, Stevenson?
My name is Kim Jones, and I have kids going up through elementary and middle school. And I have been privileged to be part of the curriculum team. So I just wanted to let the board know that a lot of the curriculums that we've looked at also include literature and science and history. And so, yes, they are language arts and English, but because that is such high testing that we need our kids to know, a lot of this curriculum also includes science and history that's getting cut more and more in the day because it doesn't seem as important nationwide. So we looked at that piece too, and we find that that is important to these kids. So to offer all of that in their literature is a really good thing to offer our kids.
Good to know, and thank you for volunteering for that committee.
That's good that you probably had almost 10 different people from our community that have
Super.
participated in at least one meeting. So thanks, ladies, for everything.
Thanks for bringing people into that.
And I think like just spreading that word that, this is gonna cost, let's say $200,000. We're all here for our kids to get the best education. Everyone says what came first, chicken or the egg, but I mean, it's about butts and seats, yes. And the other side of that is, well, you can't put 500 people in a classroom, but you can put it in a stadium. I agree with that, but we're all here for education. And I think, speaking from a public member a year ago, when my kid learns 2 + 2, it's like, awesome. And if John was my friend and we were sitting there and he's like, well, yeah, he should have learned that a year ago. Like, we don't know that. So I think that the more that we can make our community aware that this needs to happen, the more people get involved. And it's no different than raising $1 million for whatever. Let's get behind it, but we have to be aware as a community. And we're only so many people here in this room, so you got to go talk to people and be like, hey, this is really what's happening with the education system, and we need to help. We need to get involved. You need to talk to your state. You need to talk to your federal government. Like, we need to help. So, but it takes all of us taking place.
Thank you. Well said. All right, if there's nothing further on curriculum, we'll move on to item F, which is the annual audit report. It would be for the last fiscal year. And it is consuming over, I think, 110 pages in your packet. So those that want a visual reference, that's it. And Christy, this is your expertise, and we appreciate, we'll get to the bottom line first. We appreciate Christy's work that ensured that we passed the audit. And then what else can you tell us about it?
There's not a lot. I don't want to bore everyone.
Yeah, it's a lengthy one.
So the main thing that I would like to share is that Dave and Ben and I met with the auditor at the end of the audit and had a summary, which was much shorter than all of this. And we went over some of the highlights of the audit. And of course, I guess the main thing is that it takes several months to go through and gather all of the information that we have to gather for the audit. I want to thank all of the people in our office. Bill Shealy is one of the people that helped gather all of the documents that are needed for that audit. So it takes a lot of work to get everything together for the auditors. And it's just a lot of work every year that we go through this. And so the main thing is that there were some nice things that we learned this year that we can do a little bit differently, maybe to make things more streamlined. And so I think I'd like to mention those items that would maybe help us do things a little bit better. One of the things that the auditor mentioned to us was that we don't have to pay all of our claims at one time in a month and wait until after we have our board meeting to actually release the payments. We can actually do those throughout the month, and then we can pay them and approve them here at the board, but we can actually just do them throughout the month and pay them And then we can actually have you guys approve everything here, but we can actually release those as we go along. We just need to have everybody's blessing and kind of talk about that a little bit. Ben talked about that with the auditor, and they said that most districts do that. And that helps speed things along, especially for our vendors. And as we know, we talked about that. We've kind of talked about the fact that we have paying the visas and the CSCT that we do that way. And so I think that that would be something that maybe we all want to get on the same page about and just do them maybe on a weekly basis or do things in a more timely manner so that we don't have any vendors that have issues, that we can get things in and out better for the people that we are going to. So that was one of the things we talked about. We also talked about the fact that we don't have to have the board chair actually sign the checks. We can actually have the superintendent sign the checks along with myself. And that might make it a lot easier process so that the board chair isn't having to be interrupted all the time for that, which is kind of a cumbersome process. The superintendent is always here and they can easily not have to log in and do a log me in process. They can actually just sign right here from the office, or if they weren't gone, they can actually sign as well. So that makes it a little bit easier as well. Can you guys think of anything else that was kind of mentioned?
Yeah, the other efficiency that I want to visit more with the board about, and not, fully tonight, but I want to put it out there, is the auditor looked at our processes, and this is a process thing. It's not a board thing, but I want to visit with the board about it. And that is, when budgets are made, which we're grateful to be in a good place with budgets being done, then that money gets pushed out across the district and allocated to wherever it needs to go. We have a choke point, and the auditor pointed that out as a procedural thing that everybody, there's budgets, there's money assigned to things, and then there's purchase orders that go against those budgets. Those get approved, and then a expense can be made against that. So multiple steps, more than we all deal with in our just in our home and family budgets. But the choke point is everything comes back into the superintendent's office, and the auditor recommended against that in a school of our size, that we need to get purchase orders out into each building. We need to get the control of the budget once the board and the superintendent set that budget figure, whether that's $10,000 for elementary supplies in a certain grade, or whether it's $75,000 for, athletic, whatever it needs to be. That needs to be in the person that's hired to run that, because right now they're submitting the request for that, and then it all comes and jams up in Dave's office. And so there's ways in Black Mountain's the software, the fiscal program. There's ways to get other people logged into that, control those. And so if somebody's got $10,000 to spend and it's all spent in the first few months of the school year, then it's out. But that person has that. They have the POs for that. There's, we talked more about that, about what the auditor's seen in other schools. He said school secretaries will often help with the PO process, and then building administrators have the budget side and the approval side. And so we get in Dave's office, and then soon to be John's office, just some of those high level district-wide things that are coming through for approval. And so that was the big one I wanted to talk with the board about. I don't think we have to make a motion. I don't think we'll have a future meeting, but I didn't want to start the wheels on that until everybody was aware of A, what we do, and B, that there's probably a better way to do it, unless somebody says time out. We don't want to do that.
And then I actually, I haven't done it myself, but I actually called Black Mountain. I got the literature on it, and Zeke and I had actually been talking about it beforehand. And I got the literature on doing POs and requisitions electronically. And Sam had told me that during COVID, she had done some of the preparatory work to be able to do that. And so some of the staff members, it's my understanding that they have done some e-requisition information that they've done during COVID. And so I think that given the proper training and working with everyone, we probably have to update some of the staff information in the computer systems, that process we could implement fairly easy. So we have to connect with Black Mountain to make sure that we've got everything running appropriately, but it is something that we already paid for in the system. And so it's a matter of training staff so that we have that ability to do so.
And Dave and I briefly talked about that training piece because that everybody has so much on their plate already. It's not like somebody's looking for something else, but I think if we need to, as a board, be supportive of, if folks need to come in for something that's a little extra for a day in the summer or something, I think maybe as a board, we could talk about being supportive of that and get people where they're for the new school year.
So that is one thing. And the only other thing that I had that I wanted to mention on this were the few items that they mentioned as corrective action. And I did hand out to each of the board members the items that they have issues with. And so I just mentioned what we're going to do as corrective action, and that is something that we have to submit to OPI and say how we're going to fix the issues that we did have, which none of them were anything major, but we did have a couple of items that we needed to fix. One of the issues, they label it as non-routine transactions. So we had a couple of items that the auditor this year was newer, and so he caught them, and I think that it hadn't been caught in the last couple of years. They were issues relating to showing a receivable on our books for the Carlos bus transaction that happened a couple of years ago. We hadn't been noted on our
The 5-year purchase of the buses.
5-year purchase. Anyway, so we got that noted on our books, and then also the Lisa Thompson Memorial was also an endowment that needed to be noted as well. So we just mainly it was making sure that if we have non-routine transactions where there might be something that's a little out of the ordinary, that we make sure that we contact the auditors and get a little more guidance on making sure that those are notated in the appropriate form on the books. So that was the main thing. And then the other thing that we had, which was a repeated issue, and I want to mention this a little bit more too, because we are working, Angie and I are working along with Dave to try to create better checklists for the building level secretaries, etc., for the Infinite Campus, which is kind of a new transition, is using the Infinite Campus software, which does our enrollment and so much of our student data. And then we use that software to import into what's called Payfares, which is the system that OPI has for our A&B counts. And one of the problems, this is a repeated error that they show from last year to this year. Well, obviously, if we're just getting our audit done right now, it's the A&B count for fall and spring has already happened. So sometimes these issues, by the time you notice it, you've already finished a whole other year, and or at least in the A&B count. So I'm just bringing that to your attention that it's like kind of hard sometimes because time has already passed. But what we're trying to do is create better checklists for our frontline secretaries so that we have, by the time I get the A and B information, we're not having so many issues with making sure that all of the T's and I's are crossed and dotted, that it's a little bit easier for me to press a button to make sure that everything is accurate. Because right now with these new systems and the software that we're using, we're having a lot of little kinks and problems with making sure that all of the enrollment data is accurate, because we've had a lot of new legislative type things come through that are causing us to get that.
And if I remember right, just to provide some clarity around what Christy's talking about, or the specific, it was the length of time, full-time versus part-time that a ELP or early kindergarten or ELP student was attending versus how they were recorded in the campus, which my nothing but sympathy and understanding for the people entering things in Infinite Campus. I mean, there's so many moving parts, so it's certainly easy to see how a frustrating little thing would catch us like that. So it's the students here, the students with us, the student has been with us, but it was a amount of time of the day they're attending type of thing that got it.
So we're working to make sure that we get better systems, like I said, for those frontline sectors, so that we can get those things ironed out a little bit better. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Thank you.
I mean, if you have any questions on the report, let me know, and I'm happy to try to answer that.
Trustees, any questions?
Good job.
Thanks to the staff, because they work really hard to help gather all the information for it, and thanks for Bill, he's helped a lot. So thank you.
Yeah. I also appreciate, and this was, this is buried in it, but we had a lot of, I don't know what you want to call them, inactive or dead student accounts. And so there's been a lot of work to clean those up and that also cleans up an audit, that clears things up in a lot of good ways. So good work that's been done.
Right, the other thing I would like to add is, just an aside, completely separate, is the Visa cards. We're looking into BMO or the P cards to see if we can change how that would work as well. And I think that might, help alleviate some of the issues that we're having with the late fees. And so I'd like to try to bring some information to you at the next board meeting regarding this. So.
Be good. Thank you. Questions or comment from the public about the audit? This is an important thing. Pay a lot of money for it. Every school district does. So it's important to hear from the public if there are questions about our audit. All right. Stephanie, we would love a legislative update. We are at transmittal break for our vaunted legislature in the city of Pelham.
So they're on break right now. They'll come back into session Friday and Monday, I believe. So I guess all I wanted to talk about today was thank you. A lot of you guys are reaching out and talking about this bill or that bill that piques your interest or as time allows, and that makes middle school board heart happy. So thank you very much for doing that. I have been getting a lot of positive feedback, not about us specifically, but about that people are appreciating hearing from districts. And so keep on keeping on. I think it's helpful. We're halfway through, so there's going to be a lot more to go. The one thing I kind of wanted to focus on tonight was a quick overview of the STARS Act, because after a little conversation yesterday, I realized we really focus on one aspect of it. And I don't think we know, it's just a huge bill with a lot of pieces on it. The really big piece that we're all focusing on is that if we meet the requirement for minimum teacher pay at the bottom of our matrix, then we get funded above and beyond that we can use those funds to pay other levels of our matrix and get some support for teacher pay. This is by and large the hugest part of the bill and the thing that everybody's excited about. There's a lot of other pieces in there that they've added to try to kind of figure out how to incentivize districts to do certain things, but that can also help us out. So some of those things are by pulling in more people instead of the quality educator payment. It's now, if it passes, and it's looking hopeful. It's passed the House, it's going to go into the Senate. So here's hoping that it's looking good. Instead of the quality educator payment, they're redefining that as the quality staff payment. They're going to put business managers into that, as well as American language and cultural specialists and people on emergency authorization. So if you're doing the job of a teacher and you're emergency authorized, you can qualify for that quality staff payment as well. So that'll help the district with our funding. They're offering incentives to districts that meet certain standards to get students future ready. And those things are in college courses, doing things that are either dual credit, AP, CTE programs. And I don't have all the details on that at hand, but so basically you can check all these boxes. And if you land here, here, or here, your district will be funded heavier in the years to come. it encourages joint employment with other districts, which could really help us out, especially, I don't know, maybe looking at our CTE program. So if there's somebody that teaches a course, does coursework that we get for, don't pay them full-time, they could split the time and there's incentives there to do that. The couple other pieces are addressing housing costs by increasing general fund limits. There's also something about housing stipends in there, and I think that applies to pretty specific locations or people in certain situations where the housing cost is a higher percentage than the taxable value. And it also creates a dashboard for submitting data on all of these pieces. That'll be another task. But the writing in there and the hope is that it will be a streamlined system, so there's not redundancies. But let's see what that turns into. But that's in a very small little nutshell. That's the STARS Act. There's so many other pieces that are affecting education this year, but that's one that I think we talk about a lot, but I don't think we've really gone over, or I don't know if everybody knows that it houses all of those things.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
Over Thursday at 5 o'clock, Representative Overstreet down at City Hall, for those of you that would like to convey your interests, concerns, opinions. I'm not aware of our senator having any such meeting, but maybe I just am not aware of it.
This Thursday at 5?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Good to know. Other comments or questions related? Questions from the public? Yes.
Stephanie, I guess when you were talking about that sharing of resources bit of the bill,
Yeah.
when I read it, I was unclear whether that would count for the elementary district and the high school district, since it says 2 or more districts.
Right.
At least in the last version of the bill text that I saw.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard anything more on that.
I heard something a couple of months ago on that and felt like I had clarity on it. And then when I was looking at this today, I was like, oh, I can't remember, but I can look that up and get back to you because, yeah, that would be relevant and helpful.
Christine?
One of the challenges has been, it's been using the campus portal to enter a lot of the information that we've kind of struggled with over the last year, has been entering the right information so that it is uploaded and that we can get the proper payment. So i.e., you know, when a teacher's in their first 2 years of teaching, they get an additional payment from
Stars,
state.
the first stars.
Right, but you have to enter it all correctly in the campus in order to get those payments. And so there's just a lot of different data that we're trying to input and do it appropriately so that we get the proper reimbursement. And so it's wonderful in a perfect world, but we have a lot of moving pieces and parts and trying to learn all of the intricacies in the software, which is Infinite Campus, and knowing all those spots that we have to enter. It's not only is it, did it used to be just only the student part, now we have the teacher part that we're trying to input. And so that goes from, you know, Dave trying to learn it, me trying to learn it, Angie trying to learn it, and the staff trying to learn it. So it's just a learning curve, and then it's been kind of steep.
Yeah. Now the new superintendent of OPI recognized that and has been talking to people in Masbo and I don't know how fast anything will happen or how it pertains to this specifically, but they've been talking about how do we streamline systems so that all the data still has to get entered in, but there's not as many redundancies and there's not, it's just that things would get streamlined. And I can't speak to your job well enough to be able to say everything that you guys probably stumble over or have piled on top of each other. But it sounded like, I mean, that was something that she said within the first 5 minutes of speaking. So it sounded like it was a priority and that she sees it being a
well, and hopefully we will slowly get it ironed out. It's just one of those things that has taken a lot of time. Dave's worked immensely on it, and Angie's worked a ton on it, and Tracy before her, trying to get all those pieces and parts together. So it's just so that the board understands, it's a learning curve, and it's taking some time, but we'll get there.
Thank you. Right, thank you, Stephanie. We'll move into our business and action items tonight, section 6 of our agenda. And it's wonderful to have students in our speech and debate program that have qualified for a national level event, which could take them out of state to Iowa to compete. So Superintendent Tennis, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, our coaches are here tonight. Our kids are here tonight. So, yeah, happy to have in front of you the opportunity for these kids to go to the national competition in June. They're already planning their fundraising and that sort of thing. And I would very much recommend we approve the out-of-state travel for these qualifiers.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions, or do the participants wish to share any further with us?
Sure. My name is Alex Miller. I'm the head coach for the speech and debate team. I have my assistant coach Heidi Talent, our captain McKenna Monroe here with me tonight. We are super excited to have kiddos qualify for nationals. This is the 6th year since I've been coaching that we've had kiddos qualify. And I think that's a testament to how great our district is and how wonderful our kids who compete in speech and debate are and how passionate they are. A few of you up here have had kids on my team, and you know how much time and effort they put into not only coming to practices with us, but practicing at home, early mornings and late nights after tournaments. And that really shows. We have the opportunity to take 3 kids to nationals this year. And McKenna has been chosen to be a part of the World Schools debate team, which is not just her qualifying for our school, but her qualifying and representing our state, which is really cool. So she's on a debate team that consists of 5 kids from different school districts, which is really exciting. She was also an alternate for her main event, which is informative. So she's the first alternate in that as well. And then we have the opportunity to take 2 kids in supplemental events, which I don't know if those kids actually know. We're going to announce that at our banquet tomorrow night. But we as coaches have chosen to take Cody Bradford and Paige Berg in supplemental events for nationals. So that will be in Des Moines, Iowa from June 15th to June 22nd. It's a full week. And I based most of our budget on the fact that we went to Des Moines last year. And so we're looking at about, I believe, $1,700 per person. So that would be 3 students and 2 coaches. I believe I have the number. Comes out to roughly $7,000. As your student council representative said, we have a joint fundraiser planned with DECA this Friday, our trivia night. And then we're looking at some other opportunities like concessions. I know we'll send out a couple emails about concessions opportunities for certain sports, potential other fundraising opportunities. We've been really successful with our fundraising opportunities the past couple of years. And so we hope to be successful as well this year. And that's all I have to say. McKenna, do you have anything you would like to say?
No, I think Miller said it very well. I think speech and debate is an incredible club. It's really a club that you don't hear a lot about as our football teams or softball teams, but we really do compete phenomenally. We have a very small team, but we do amazing. And the skills that it builds, not just in your competitors, but your teamwork, it is an incredible club, and it truly provides so many opportunities. And I just love getting to talk about it. I can talk about it for hours. I can tell you how amazing it is. And I just really appreciate the time dedicated to acknowledging our success and to supporting us in the future.
I would like to add, I did tell her she didn't have to come tonight, but she is just that passionate that she was like, no, Miller, I'm going to be there. After a long day of school and all of her extracurriculars, I know that she's very tired and probably wants to go home. So I just want to give kudos to her for showing up and being here to represent her team.
Well, you can't argue with her or debate her. Let's do what you want.
Very true.
Thank you, guys. Good job.
Yes, thank you. Questions from the board? Is there a
Have
motion?
you meet your fundraising goals? Do you think, if you met them, and do you know how much you have or how much you need or?
I don't know, I haven't checked. We have 2 accounts and I think we don't have anything in the Nationals account yet.
But in the past, we've had similar, fundraising goals. It's been about the same amount every year that we've gone and we've traveled and we've, I believe, met our goals every year. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. In the past 3 years that we have traveled.
So you're gonna need like $8,500 in weeks? Is that, maybe I heard the dates wrong. They're just coming up.
We have until June. I believe our payments to NSDA are due in May. That is just their registration fees, and our $200 judge bond, which if we meet our judge requirements, we get that $200 back as well next year. And we've never had a problem meeting those requirements. Basically, Heidi and I go to the schools that the kids are competing at, and while they're competing, we judge. And so as long as we show up when we're supposed to show up, the NSDA gives us that $200 back. But I anticipate that with our fundraising, we should be able to,
You got a hold of me. I would be interested in putting on a fundraiser for your speech and debate team.
I would love that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks all. Is there a motion at this time?
I've got one.
Stephanie?
I would motion to approve the out-of-state travel of our 3 national speech and debate qualifiers to attend the competition in Des Moines, Iowa.
Exotic.
I'll second that.
Motion from Stephanie, second from Jennifer. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we're glad to take that trip. Thank you for being here tonight and sharing all that with us.
Good job, guys.
Yes, thank you. We'll move now to our out-of-district enrollment. We have one in front of us. It is in the elementary only. And so you have the standard form in front of you. This is an elementary out-of-district. I'll check, is there any other last-minute additions? Okay. Single student requesting to be a part of our district. So trustees, you have the information in front of you. Any questions anybody'd like to ask of the administration? No questions and no opportunity for public questions or comment. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Fran?
I move to accept the administrative recommendations for enrollment for non-resident elementary students as presented.
Thank you, Fran. Is there a second?
Second.
Nathan, second. All right, elementary motion. Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Fran?
Aye.
I vote aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Moving forward, you have in front of you, the contract drawn up for, Mr. John Cronin. And, this is the contract, that we have discussed, in some terms with our legal counsel. And then, she and I have worked on this or looked at this a little bit. This is very much largely similar to our past contracts, but this might be the first time John's seeing it. You have seen it. You did give it to. Okay, I didn't know, but it's it will be ready for John's signature after this meeting or after anything that is included or amended by this board. And so it does take an action item to approve the contract either as written or subject to amendment.
Were there any changes in the paper copy from our digital copy?
No. No. I think that paper, and it's just Dave being helpful, giving you a paper copy. Yep. They're the same.
I move to approve the contract with
Presented, Nathan and Billy at the second. Are there questions about the contract as presented? All right, and any questions, public questions? This is the public's ability to review this contract as well. All right. Well, we are pleased to be able to offer this to Mr. Conan. We're pleased to be able to make this hire. We're counting our chickens before they're hatched. I think we can look forward to your signature after we approve this, so appreciate that.
Egg prices are good.
Egg prices. Yes, they are. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any last questions or comments on the contract? Okay. All those in favor of approving the contract as presented, it's a 2-year contract, 2025 to 2027, for our new superintendent, starting July 1st, 2025. John Conan, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Contract approved. We'll look forward to your signature and then we'll get it signed and lock it in. Thank you. All right.
I
And
mean, you're
welcome.
already here, but also.
Yes. Superintendent Tennis, we've had 2 days of school closure in February, along with the school closure in November, which has, the weather has resulted or forced us to take a small amount of action. And can you please describe that?
Yeah, so, the OPI gives you a one, I don't want to say 3-day, but preview, sort of thing. But we, in addition to our cancellation in the fall, we had 2 heavy snow days in February, the 4th and the 5th. And, with, consultation with, OPI and looking internally at our aggregate minutes and hours and making sure that we meet the state requirements for the length of time in school, we still meet that. I hesitated to bring this to you in March, thinking that maybe we should wait till April. Because if for some reason we were to have another snowstorm, we could be in a situation where we will definitely have to revisit this. And at that point, we would have to entertain some alternatives, likely to what the rest of our school year looks like. So knock on wood that, we'll be okay that way, but, this is out of an abundance of caution and recommended by OPI, even though we still meet the aggregate hours. They said, you should really present this to your board regardless, and just give them the opportunity to be aware of this situation and move to make the effort, should we need to make up the time that we missed.
Thank you. Are there any questions about that? Is that clear? We're not changing anything at this point. We are giving the district the go-ahead, the pre-go-ahead to make adjustments if something were to need to happen with instructional hours at this point. So we're kind of getting ahead of something that we truly believe won't happen, but as soon as we say that, it will.
So question then, you mentioned possibility of it happening again, there is that possibility. Do we need to make that decision this month? If there is a possibility, I mean.
You could forego this. Eventually, you're going to have to make a motion. Basically, what you're committing to here is, as a board, as a school district, we are committed to fulfilling our obligation. And this is a act of good faith with OPI. It's not necessary. This could be put down the road, but they recommended OPI, when I say they recommended that we put this in place for just to show that effort, just in case there's any question about it, that we've discussed this publicly.
Right. Is there a motion?
I will make a
Stephanie?
motion. Although the district complies with the aggregate instructional hours in the ELP through 12 grade levels, the Stevensville Board of Trustees will make a reasonable effort to meet the required hours of instruction should an unforeseen emergency happen.
And gotcha, and we'll insert the words I move in front of that just to make it all legal. Stephanie and Nathan, it's been moved and seconded that we will make the reasonable accommodations to meet the required hours for instructional time. Further questions or comments? Questions from the public? Molly.
Trevor Motley, I have a question, as this relates to next year. The school calendars that I saw had no snow days. Should we add a snow day to that to like not be in the situation in the future? I don't know, just a question that I have.
I think this year's are the same. It's hours, not
It's
days.
hours, not days.
Yeah, it was the same this year.
So I know the calendar committee is working to get a final version of calendar in front of the board. Hopefully we'll see that in April. But yeah, good making sure that there are minutes built in. I know this is more than you probably need to know, but the grade levels that cause the wrinkle in this is 4th and 5th grade. And that is really the place where we have to really make sure that we have the minutes there, because it's the transition of minutes out of the primary or the ELP through 3 and into 4, 5, and it just creates some tricky situations. Yeah. But we're in good shape.
Well, I think that the calendar committee has done a great job the last few years doing it this way. Seeing what Lone Rock is doing. Lone Rock had to, in essence, take away days off in the spring to make up for days. And I think the fact that you haven't had to do that is excellent, that you built that in to the hours, in the minutes. So I totally support what Trevor's saying, make sure those minutes are there going forward so that if it happens again, because I know it's really hard to tell a kid, you were supposed to have that day off, but now you don't.
Well,
Plus, teachers don't like it very
that's what I was
much
just gonna
either.
say. The staff isn't thrilled about it either.
Further questions about the motion on the floor? All those in favor of approving the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to Senate Bill 307, which gives school districts the ability through resolution to impose levies. This is a procedural step and not so much in defining exactly what that levy would look like, but the fact that we would be making a procedural step to impose a levy should that become necessary later in the year. Superintendent Tennis, did you share more?
Yeah, I just want to be clear that this is a projection. So this is us making some early plans about what our budget is. In August, you will approve the actual budget and we will have more clarity with that. But it is our obligation also to communicate to the community what our intentions are. And I want to point out two things on both the high school and on the elementary side of Senate Bill 307. Transportation, as there's a pretty significant increase there. I will tell you that is largely an overestimate of what is likely necessary there. But I also, on the flip side of that, we've had the conversation about tuition. And I think that is probably an underestimate, because what we don't know at this point is what other districts around us are going to invoice us. And so that will go up. This is showing you an increase, but that increase will be a bit higher than that. I wouldn't say that it's going to double or anything like that, but these will take a more a clearer shape here in the future. So this is definitely a projection.
Thank you. Are there questions about this procedural projection related item? State law requires that we notify the public by March 31st. And so that's why it's important that we address this in this March meeting with the hard numbers, the table being figured out in August, but this table, if I may borrow this would go into the newspaper, right? Yeah. So we would, I think it's important for us as trustees to know that if we were asked about that these are the high projections and we do what we can to bring things into check as needed. Questions? Hey, is there a motion?
We're doing elementary and high school separately?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Is there an elementary motion?
I have an elementary motion.
Thank you.
I move to adopt a resolution of intent to impose an increase in permissive levies in the elementary district as presented.
For a second?
Second.
Stephanie, seconded by Billy. Is there questions about the elementary proposed levy and the notice to the public, meeting the March 31st deadline, so on and so forth? Questions from the public? All right, Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Tony, how do you vote? Fran, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
And Nathan? Motion carries. Elementary district 7-0. Moving on to the issue of the high school proposed intent to raise levies. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to adopt the resolution of intent to impose an increase in levies for the high school district.
Thank you, Nathan. Is there a second?
Second.
Jennifer seconds that. Questions from the board? Comment? Questions or comment from the public? All those in favor of approving the intent to raise imposed levies at the high school district, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all. All right. Item F, one of the more interesting procedural things that we have to do as a board is get into the procedure of the district in approving a one list of books to weed. So thanks all for the work that goes into this and the reasons behind it. Appreciate the detail and the reasons why this needs to be done. And so is there anything the district would want to add to this or speak to itself?
It pretty much speaks for itself. Heidi is here if you have questions about that, but ultimately these books have been deemed, yeah, they're just, the kids aren't using them. They're at one time they served a purpose, but the purpose is not there.
Right. Okay. Very good. Fran?
My only question would be if there's someone in the community that would want one of these books, how would they go about doing that
So
as they're
once-
being disposed of?
So once I delabel them, like I take off all my stickers and everything, I put like, it's open to staff and students first. I stick my little card out there, saying free, and they rouge the card. And then it's up to me to dispose of like leftovers, how I see fit. And I just travel around and stick them in little free libraries. If you have a request, I can put your name on the book and just drop it off.
Thank you.
Right. Is there a motion?
I move to dispose of the weeded library books as presented.
Thank you. Fran, is there a second? Nathan, second. All those in favor of disposing of the weeded library book on the list, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have the MTSBA annual membership survey that is due tomorrow. So always good to have lots of time to work on this, right? So I think what we have to discuss each year is, or to act on is that we will do it. So we need a proactive motion that we'll do it. And then we'll designate somebody to fill it out because they don't want 8 of these, I don't believe. They want 1. So typically the chair has filled this out. It's in front of you here. And the other thing I guess we would want board input on are the rating scale questions of extremely satisfied, dissatisfied, extremely dissatisfied. If there's anything that the board would overwhelmingly want to state. So is there a motion at this time?
I would move to directing the board chair, Meyer, to complete and submit the MTSBA annual survey on behalf of the Stevensville School Board.
I second that.
Yeah, yeah. Duly noted, duly noted. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we fill this survey out by tomorrow at 5 p.m. More importantly, now that the board has looked through it, it was part of your packet, are there items that the board would want to publicly direct me to say that needs filled out in a certain way? And these items can be directed to me later tonight or tomorrow as well. These don't have to be, these aren't action items that we have to vote on in public, but I do think it's very important that whatever I turn in is reflective of the board, not just my own personal opinion.
Ben, should we just fill these out and give them to you and you can look through them and?
If you'd like to do that, you have that copy in front of you, paper, then get it to me as long as you get it to me in time. Yep. I would welcome 7 other opinions. Yep. No, I would. Okay.
I would do so.
Okay. All right. Questions from the board? Questions from the public? All right. All those in favor of me filling out this survey with other board member input and getting this turned in tomorrow, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Motion carries. Last on our agenda tonight, we have the proposed cross-country retreat. And it does look like Coach Lewis is gone. Yeah, and that's fine. We'll take action on this, and I should have visited with Superintendent Head. I really think this is kind of an informational thing. This is a summer activity that's awesome and that happens and it's good, and I don't know that there's any.
It actually happens after the season starts.
Yeah, but all sorts of sports things do, and we don't have to take action on it. We will.
I think what we want to be careful of is the overnight piece.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we absolutely will, because it's on the agenda. I just think informationally, it's great to know. It's wonderful that we've got coaches doing things like this and doing great things for kids. And
But I think Coach Lewis has also come every year to ask for our approval.
right, and that's probably a different, right. We probably need to be clear with our precedents, and so we've got other things that fit that too. So, but it's not an action item tonight, and so we will take action. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Danny or Dave?
No, I just think it's a good anytime that you can kind of break out of the norm.
Yeah, I do too.
It's a fun experience for kids, and I think this is pretty a great idea for some team building for our kids, and just an experience that they'll remember sitting around the campfire and then going for their run, that sort of thing. So I think it's a cool idea. So strongly support.
Yeah,
That's a good way to promote those relationships that Mr. Cohen was talking about.
that's right. All right, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the cross-country team retreat August 19th and 20th, 2025.
Second.
All right, any further comment, questions from the public? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. This time that concludes our stated agenda. With no further business, is there a motion to adjourn? Billy, seconded by Fran. Oh, yes.
Skip Gibbons, I want to return back to the discussion on curriculum. John had mentioned just throwing out numbers, nothing's thrown on anything, but if $200,000 is a number that's going to be used for the price of the curriculum, where's that going to come from?
Well, that's why we have a resource committee. That gets to really to the heart of Billy's question too, that unfortunately, we have been in a position where it has been leftover stuff, and we are not treating it that way anymore. And so we've been working all year long, dating back to the last school year, to set goals around this and then budget accordingly. So this isn't a number that's snuck up on us. We've got to work through that. To answer your question directly, it comes out of the general fund. Comes out of the general fund. And so we've taken a far more proactive approach. We've just needed, we need to dial in exactly what that number is, but we've taken a far more proactive approach in planning for that than I think where we've been in some recent post-COVID years.
My observation has been, I wholeheartedly agree the need for that. It's just desperately needed. I just watching for some time how the board deals with money issues and they, Christie, she makes magic with her numbers over there. But it's always been kind of a feeling like you're going to a restaurant, pay for $100 meal with $90 in your pocket.
Sure.
It's always trying to struggle to make ends meet, so.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good analogy. There's been a very concerted clarity, I think, from this board in this past year to be fiscally prudent in things, at the same time, recognizing that the school district has to run with necessary and appropriate autonomy, that although we approve the claims, we're not able to be in every decision that's made with that. But I think administration's done an outstanding job of trying to navigate that and work through those things.
So Nate had mentioned in regards to that about trying to educate the public on the need for that sort of thing. If it's coming out of general fund, why does the public, not that there's a concealment issue or anything, why does the public need to know? How would they know? How would you educate the people? My experience has been pretty much what Tony has been with social media. And put in a sort of a search for anywhere on Google, and be covered for hamburger. And I get so many meat things on my Facebook page. It's incredible. But I just search for a shirt. I get clothing stuff just one side and down the other with Facebook offerings of this and that. But I don't see anything for school issues. I'm one of those where I don't have the same page as Fred. I don't get that same information. So the stuff that happens here is pretty much unless I go out and specifically look for it, I'm the Joe public out that doesn't know anything. Okay. And I don't know how to get that information out there.
Let me comment. So the issue with money isn't an issue that needs to be put before the public. It's an issue that needs to be taken to gentlemen like Overstreet, who sit in the state legislature every 2 years and balance the state budget historically on the back of school districts. When we are told we might get 3% and we've been getting it for years at best, at most, and the cost of operating schools in every arena has gone up more than that, we continue to have issues with funding. And so what the state legislature has effectively done over the last several sessions is they have abdicated their responsibility to properly fund state schools. And what they have said is, here, local school districts, you stick it to your taxpayers at the local level, which is not how it's supposed to be done according to the state's constitution.
No argument there. I'm focused here on this particular issue. It's going to come up before any legislative issue is going to get taken care of. It's going to be, if somebody were to try to put out information, go ahead, Nate.
And I agree with you, Skip. And Tony, I do a lot of business on social media. I'm on social media a lot. I'm in the same position as Tony is. I don't see anything in regards to the school. So congratulations to everyone that does. However, I think you've talked to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. I think it's simply educating people to realize how schools are funded. To Dan's point, this is how schools are funded, guys. This is it. And at the end of the day, that's it. However, there is a lot of money in this house. And I think that if people were sitting here as somebody that does a lot of work with schools and helping, I'm just here going, well, how can we get money into these situations? And there's a lot of people like us out there, a lot of people that you talk to, a lot of people that you talk to. But I just think it's just getting at casual conversations. I think it's as simple as us talking about it. But to what Dan's saying, you have to talk to Mr. Winfrey, whoever else it is, and let our position be known that everyone needs to get louder. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I think that people in the past administrations, they've been real squeaky. Well, they've got a lot of grease, so let's be squeaky as well. So
What
let's-
the legislators have done is they have said, again, local level, you want local control, you go run a bill levy. You go tax your taxpayer at the level. There's a small fortune sitting over in the state coffers. They're just sitting there. It's.
And the sad irony is,
Public education is gonna see that one.
where there is actually revenue in the state coffers to get caught up, but the state laws prohibit the inflationary increases to schools. They're way below what the inflation is. And so we play catch up where other public services have better formulas. And there is a bill, I don't know which bill it is. There is a bill to correct some of that, but very much appreciate you asking. And to Dan's point, and I think to your, Skip, we are, we may be in a place where we've got to run one of these levies, and then we need the public. We need folks like you asking questions, and then all folks involved explaining what they know the situation, because again, we're blessed with that local control to then go out and have to secure those funds to bolster the general fund.
I want to be clear on this too. We're paying for this out of interlocal, which has been built up over years, partly because of the sale of our buses.
True.
And so, the desire is to move this into, having this as a line item so that but it's a big expense. And so when we are strapped for money, this is the sort of thing that schools have to eliminate because they can't get it done. They have to balance their budgets. I'll quit talking because I feel like we're getting off of the agenda.
The motion is to adjourn.
Yeah, and so I just.
Yeah, but no, that's an important point of clarification, right? And that interlocal is the money that out of the other two districts plus the sale of the buses, yeah, which is unique to us. So, thank you, Skip. Motion to adjourn. So without further, then it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Question.